Wow. Hi, Chanel.
Hello, Cinti.
Woo, we're really going and zooming through these movies, aren't we?
We are.
We sure are. And I'm going to be really honest with you right now. I don't know how excited I am for this episode. Well, how excited I am for half this episode. Let me rephrase.
Oh.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's giving people a hint, wink, huh?
It sure is, because today we're going to be talking about two films. We're going to be talking about Nightbitch, which came out in 2024, and Anatomy of the Fall, which came out in 2023. And similar to our previous episodes, we're going to give a general overview of both these films, go over the scenes that we liked, talk about if we feel moved by it, talked about the actors in each film, and then talk about similarities, and then ultimately, rank them with our current running ranking, right? So, Chanel, I am passing the baton to you. What film do you want to begin with?
Okay. I think we should talk about Nightbitch first.
Okay. That's a choice. But a choice that you have made. Yes. So Nightbitch.
Indubitably.
Nightbitch, which honestly starred Amy Adams and was a difficult film to find because it was out in theaters for like the minimum amount of time that it could be in theaters and immediately went to Hulu. Like immediately. So we watched it through Hulu. I believe the both of us watched it on Hulu, correct?
Yep, that's correct.
And the general premise is that it follows Amy Adams, who is a stay-at-home mom, and it's hitting on the struggles of being a mother. So ultimately, her husband his work takes him out of not remote, but he travels for work, so he's never home. So she's taking care of her kid by herself, and is hitting on the fact that she is just struggling. She gave up her career as an artist to be a mom. She misses the person that she was before being a mom. She's losing herself. And she attends like this mommy in me class at the library where a bunch of moms bring their kids to go and listen to being read to. And ultimately she does not find any connection to them because that's just not who she is. And so I don't know what spawned this on. It feels like it's some force of nature, but all of a sudden she starts to feel as though she is relating and becoming a dog, and in a sense she is becoming a dog. So throughout this film she slowly but surely picks up these traits that are very animalistic, very related to like a dog, getting sharper canines, having a stronger sense of smell, wanting to eat raw meat, and ultimately she does indeed transform into a dog and begins to start finding herself and utilizes that animalistic side of her to get back what she ultimately wanted in her life, which was her autonomy. But, I feel like I spoke about that way more beautifully than how the film was executed.
Wow, Cindy, you do like that?
Yeah, I am. I'm going to be honest, Chanel, with you. I really strongly dislike this movie. I strongly dislike this movie.
Yeah. For this one, I feel very neutral on this movie. So, yeah. Vibes.
So let's go through. I mean, before we go through scenes, did I hit on everything? Would you say that's a good general overview of this movie?
Yeah, that's a good general overview.
Okay, cool.
Yes.
So is there a scene, let's just take it scene by scene. What is a scene that you either enjoyed or just felt very strongly about while watching this movie?
Yes. I think the first scene was the first scene of the movie, actually, where she is talking with like a friend she has to talk to in a while at the grocery store.
Yes.
And it does that thing where someone's talking to someone, like the lady asked and answered like, oh, don't you love motherhood or something like that? A question like that, right? And then the main character, she responds with basically like, no, I'm losing my mind and and she rattles off a bunch of stuff. But it turns out that was in her head. And, that's a trope that I don't like in movies, actually.
Really?
I don't like that in movies. It happens a lot.
It's been happening a lot more lately, yes.
And I don't know. It's just, it's one of those things where I feel like it's overused. That's one. And then two, they just use it whenever.
Yeah.
And that, like, I might be losing my mind. Did she do that multiple times in the movie?
I think, yeah, there were a couple of times where a scene happened and then you realize that it wasn't the scene that actually happened.
Yeah. And so she's an unreliable narrator, but I don't know. It just felt like I've seen it before. So, you know?
Yeah. Yep. So that's a scene.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So the scene, well, the thing is, the scene, I didn't enjoy it. It just made me sick to my stomach. Okay, I need to start being nice. I'm being really brutal to this film, but like, I don't think, I feel like it's been like, I've emphasized enough that I didn't like it. But, pretty much when I say she turns into a dog, like, I mean, literally she becomes a dog. So things are changing with her, not just the fact that she gets canines, but she has a boil that's on her back that she opens using like a safety pin. And in the process, she proceeds to pull out a bunch of hair from that and pus, and it's a tail. It's her growing a tail. And you said this too when we talked about this first initially. That scene was unnecessary. Like, that scene didn't add anything to the film. Like, if you took it out, the movie would still be exactly the same. Like, there was no need for that film. And
yeah,
that's a scene that literally, when I think about the movie, this is the only scene that I see. And with the movie having such a profound message about, you know, like postpartum, right? It's sad that the only thing that I can get out of it is how grotesque it was, her pulling a clump of hair out of an orifice in her back.
Yeah. And so for me, I'm less squeamish than Cindy is.
I'm very squeamish.
So, like, yeah, she's very squeamish. She'll turn off a movie.
I will.
She's like, I saw this, or turning it off, and I'm like, no, the movie's amazing. I can't do it.
Yeah.
Turn it off.
I know my limits. Damn. Do you want me to throw up?
Yes.
No.
And watch the rest of the movie.
No, because I'm gonna have to be the one to clean it up, and I don't want to clean up my own throw up.
I'll clean it up. I don't care.
Wow.
Watch the movie. Jesus. Anyways. So,
okay, wait. I just like to say to the podcast, Chanel says that if I ever watch a squeamish movie, she is cleaning up my barf. This is for record. This is proof that it's been said.
Yep.
Anyway.
I'll do it too. As long as you watch. I'm waiting for you to watch Bones and All. That's the movie I'm waiting on you to watch. If you watch Bones and All and you throw up, I will clean it up.
Okay. Sounds good.
So, so then for that scene, my main issue with it, if you want to do that in a film, fine. Mm-hmm. But that's when we're getting into like body horror. Mm-hmm. But this is not a body horror film.
It's not even categorized as a horror film, right?
It's not. I don't even think it is, honestly. I'll Google that while I'm talking. But so it doesn't fit genre-wise, and it felt super unnecessary. Okay, it says it's a black comedy horror film. So it does say horror film. But my thing is, this feels more like, and it even says this here, it feels more like a psychological
thriller
horror film,
okay. Mm-hmm.
Right? Thriller, psychological thriller. But it doesn't give body horror. Like, once you have that one scene, there's like no more body horror in the entire thing. Mm-hmm. Like, that's the one scene. And so I'm like, if you're going to have a body horror film, let people know early on that it's a body horror film and continue it throughout the movie. Like, she should have actually, the process of turning into a dog should have been disgusting and gruesome the entire time, as opposed to one scene. Because who was that scene for? It's not for the body horror people. It's not for the regular people who don't want to watch that. So who was it for? Mm-hmm. And so it just didn't make sense to me. Right. And like later on when she turns into a dog, like you barely even see it. And it's just like, oh, she gets a little hairy and she just scampers off. So it's like,
I like that word.
What was the point? Scamper. She did scamper. It was like, what was the point of that? So I wish that they would have just taken that scene out completely. I think it would have been better off if they did.
Agreed.
Yes. Let's see. What other thing? I really enjoyed, this is one part of the movie that I enjoyed. Mm-hmm. Her dealing with her son, because she's having a rough time taking care of her son, being a stay-at-home mom, and she kind of like cracks the code when she accepts like her dog half of herself or whatever.
Her animalistic side.
Because her child, she coddled her child, so he can't sleep without her.
Yeah.
And then he doesn't sleep well at all because she didn't practice like good nighttime routines because she wanted to like be with him.
Yeah.
And so he is a difficult sleeper. She doesn't get any sleep. And he's like maybe like 3 at this time.
2 or 3. Yeah.
Maybe 2 or 3. And so it's like, girl, I haven't slept since you've been born. It's been years. So she decides to have her son sleep in a dog bed, and like they pretend to be dogs all the time to like get him to eat, and she starts having a lot of fun with him.
Yeah.
And I thought that was very cute, very fresh, very fun.
Yes.
I would have liked a little bit more of that in the movie.
Quick question.
Yes.
Do you think, because the actor is so young, do you think he's actually reading lines, or do you think he's just being himself?
That's a good question.
Right?
First of all, the child actor, he's a twin.
Oh, yeah. They typically do that for kids, like, really, really young. Like, you know how, Family Matters? The Olsen twins played Michelle. Mm-hmm. They typically do that. Yep. And I read it's just because it's like if one twin is fussy, then the other twin isn't typically.
Yep.
And so if you're on a crunch deadline, you can just switch them back and forth.
Which is so crazy.
Crazy. I will say I didn't notice. I mean, I guess that's the thing with identical twins. I didn't notice that it was 2 different children in the film.
I don't be staring down children like that.
I'm
just like, okay,
fair.
that's a child.
That is fair. But I wonder if they're just like, okay, in the scene, just mention trucks, that you like trucks. And like the trucks that we gave you, what'd you like about the truck that Miss Adams gave you, you know? And then they just start rolling.
That's a good question. Because he didn't really have a lot to say in the film. So I could see them doing that.
But anyway, that was just a question. But to your scene point, the scene that you talked about, her figuring it out, I wouldn't say that this is my favorite scene per se. Like, I have another scene that I wanted to talk about, but I wanted there to be the mirroring of when the father, who is typically, I would say absent because he's working.
Yes.
He's absent, and he tries
a travel salesman of some sort.
Yeah. But he's gone. He tries to shame Amy's character. Also, they don't have names. I think I don't think she's ever given a name.
They don't have names.
Okay.
Online it says mother, husband, son.
Okay,
like,
so
they don't have names.
Perfect. That makes it easy for me. I don't have to remember people's names. So when Amy's character, they ultimately get a divorce, or they don't divorce, but they separate, and it's his night to have their son, and he's having such a hard time. And in the movie, he was shaming Amy. He was like, "Why are you having our son sleep in a dog bed?" And she's like, These are the first nights that he's sleeping through the night, and I can sleep by myself. Oh, why are you feeding him this? Why are you doing this? Oh, it's time to put him down. Blah blah blah. And like, there was one scene where their son was crying.
Oh my god!
And he tried to sleep through it, and she was like, "Do you not hear your son?" And so it felt good to watch him understand that what she's doing, the reason why it looks easy is because she's good at what she's doing. And it's not that easy of a job. And you really need to be more present in your son's life and help your wife with your son. Like, I think that's such a big thing, that it's always like husbands are babysitting their kids. It's never them really raising their kids. Especially like with the way this is portrayed. And even the other moms as well, it's giving that the husbands are babysitting and the mothers are raising.
Yep.
But anyway,
100%.
The scene that I actually wanted to talk about was a scene that like I was ranting to you about, because it was that scene when they were in the library and all the moms are wearing like dog printed clothes and collarbones and whatever. And I went on this whole rant about how it really felt like they were trying to make a message with the fact that the moms were the other dogs, but that's not the case. So it was so dumb for them to be wearing those clothes. And you're like, no, Cindy, like that's her pack. Like all the moms are also dogs. So I thought that scene was funny because I completely missed the point. And so the question is, though, is it my fault or is it the movie's fault? And I'm going to leave that.
I think it's your fault.
No,
I think it's
you didn't let me finish.
Because I got it.
You didn't let me finish. I was gonna say.
I apologize. Go ahead.
I was going to say we should leave it up to the audience to comment in the comment section whose fault they think it is. I vote. We obviously know what Chanel's vote is because she interjected before
audience,
I was done.
Go ahead and let her know that she needs to work on her reading comprehension. In this case, watching comprehension.
We're
going to work on that.
Chanel,
we're working on it.
I am almost 30 years old. I am no longer being educated by anybody.
You need to have a growth mindset. Okay? Anyone can learn anything at any age. Thank you.
Okay. Alrighty. Yes. Anybody can learn. I don't want to. I think that's what I'm trying to get to. I think
you need to learn. You scared me. We have a podcast. Be a professional.
I am being professional. We've made it so far with this podcast, and I think I've been doing all right without this reading comprehension that you.
That's because you're learning it. Wow, she's learning.
It's giving the SpongeBob meme with the rainbow. Is you saying learning?
Imagination.
Yes,
you're learning.
Those were the scenes that I thought were good. Yes. I did like the little not revenge. Is retribution the right word to explain? I like the retribution of the husband getting understanding
that his son is a nightmare.
Yes, but also learning that his wife is a superhero, and then the scene with the pack.
And after one day, he was like, or one weekend, he was like, bro,
I can't do this anymore.
It's like, no duh.
Like, he's literally like, take our son back.
Oh my God. And then I would say, I think this is the last scene that I could think of, is the one where she's at dinner with her old artsy fartsy friends.
Yeah, that scene, I got it, but I also didn't get it, you know?
I got it, but I wish that they would have went more full send into it. It felt like she was so meek and like she was trying, but like she was failing so hard that it was like comical as opposed to like actually making you feel something. Yeah. Because like she's disconnected from the world that she used to be in, which was the art scene. Yeah. But like they made it so far gone to where it's like comical. I'm like, girl, you were a high up arts person for years and years and years. And you've been gone for like, 2 years. You should at least be able to I understand if you don't have anything to add to the conversation, but like, you know how to at least kind of relate to these people, kind of. Yeah. But they just made it seem like too comical. Like she's a completely different person than she was before, which is the point. But I'm like, it felt comical instead of like realistic. Yes. In that way. Yes.
It really was. I don't know why I got the vibe from that scene, and I know this is probably not the message that they were trying to give, but it really was giving that.
Let's see.
Children ruin your life.
You see, that could be a theme of the movie.
Yeah, that's. I mean, I understand. Oops, I accidentally knocked into my little setup, and my camera moved. But I was going to say that I think one of the biggest things that this movie was trying to show, if it's okay to kind of transition into the themes of this movie, was the idea of postpartum, like we discussed. Yes. And of course, I think the movie's going to hit differently for everybody. For me, I'm not somebody who is in the stage to want children, and I don't even think I ever really want a child. So to me, I saw this movie as her struggling with the kid. That's like what's going to happen. Like children, they don't know. That's how you teach them. So a lot of these situations will happen. Like, and it's always harder at the beginning and it gets later or easier later. But like the amount of times that it's hard, it's like, that's years. Right. And she's 2 years in and she like the beginning phases of them not sleeping and trying to find the foods that they eat. You figure that out. And all of a sudden they start walking, talking and throwing things. And all of a sudden you have to refigure out your life. Which is, so that showed me I don't want to deal with that. And then her trying to engage with her group, who it's like most of them either don't have kids or are in a financial position to get help, right? That ultimately the lives and the people that they are have maintained either by not having any children or having children and literally incorporating their children into their lifestyle. And it was showing to me that like, children really can take your life and in essence ruin it, because what she wanted was to feel like herself and be a part of that community. And what stopped her from being a part of that community was having a child and then having a husband that's a traveling salesman, which means that she needs to be home to take care of their kid.
Yep.
You know?
Yes, ma'am. And yeah, the moral of the story for me was do not have children.
Yep.
So that's where I'm at. But yeah. And yeah, she had that little moment at the end where she was like, I wouldn't change having him, but
Right.
I'm like, okay, girl.
It's just one of those things where it's like, okay, now he's here. Like the closest thing I could relate it to is having a cat, like having a pet, right? Yep. Where it's like, it's great to have a companion of a pet. Like I enjoy Winston's company, but then times of like when I travel, right? That's one of the biggest hurdles that I've had to deal with now that I've moved away from a bunch of friends, where it's like, who can help me watch him when I'm gone for an extended period of time? And even if I'm gone for an extended period of time, who can I ask to, like, even if I am able to find somebody, sometimes the trips are too long that it's like, well, who can be here? Right. And then the separation anxiety where I feel bad for him because he's missing me. And that's just a lot, right? That I wouldn't have had to think about if I didn't have a pet. And I'm not even sure. I know for a fact that that's magnified when you have a child, right? Ooh. So it's just one of those things where it's like, to an extent I understand, which is why I don't want to do anything that's more serious than what I'm already doing, you know?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes, ma'am.
Was there anything else that you picked up from the film?
The only last thing that I want to say is that this movie is based on a novel, and I'm curious because I've heard that the novel is good, but if it's like this movie, then it might not be good. So I need to, parse that out.
Yeah. So the thing is that I feel sometimes with film or movie to film adaptations is films always have to cut out a decent chunk of the background, like the exposition. So maybe there's some more exposition, and maybe there's more of a tie to the mythical aspect, because there's something about her and her bloodline with her mother where it's like becoming a canine or a wolf of some sort is like a thing.
Genetic or something.
Yeah. So do not know for a fact, do not know for sure. But I believe the book may be better because I think you'll get the extra context that I think the movie was lacking.
Is missing.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Let's move on.
Anatomy of the Fall.
Anatomy of the Fall.
Or is it of a fall? Is it of the fall or
of a fall?
Okay.
Anatomy of a Fall.
Yes.
So this movie came out in 2023. I actually watched this movie in 2023.
You did.
Surprisingly.
And you told me to watch it, and I refused.
Yeah, and you see, I think you refused, and then I immediately told you everything about the entire plot.
You did. The full plot.
Because I was like, it's so good. I need to talk about it.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
I actually do remember the conversation. You asked, are you ever going to watch this? And I said, no.
I was like, okay, here's everything.
Then 2 years later, here I am watching it.
Exactly. So, just a synopsis of this movie. Mm-hmm. So, Anatomy of a Fall takes place in France.
Yes.
It centers around a woman. This woman has a son, and she also has a husband. Mm-hmm. One day when her son goes for a walk, the son comes back, and their father is dead.
Yes.
Okay? So the husband dies. He's on the ground. He's bleeding. He's dead. So they contact the police, they contact the police, and, it turns into a murder case. And the number one suspect is the main character, and the main character's name is Sandra. And so this entire film is about the court case surrounding this woman accused of murdering her husband.
Right.
And it's done so well. So I think that's all I need to give them.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Okay. So that's the premise of this movie. You want to get into scenes, or where do you want to go?
I say scenes, but I think it's kind of hard for me to pick a scene to talk about because they all tie together. So
everything.
Yeah. So
let's just go back and forth and then we'll just kind of like, if one scene leads into another, it leads into another type thing, you know?
Yeah. Okay. So
Would you like to start?
Yeah, I'll start. So I would like to begin with the scene where I think I missed it, but when I found out that the son is blind was in the interrogation room when they were asking the son if he was okay and like checking to see if the light was affecting him, because I guess I know like when it comes to blindness there's levels, right? And I'm assuming that he can still have like, it's not complete darkness, like he can still be irritated by light. And it was when that question got asked and the way that he was like looking but not quite looking directly at the person asking him the questions that it hit me that he cannot see, right? And that added so much more complexity to the film, because a lot of what was discussed in the trial when Sandra, the main character, was being tried for her husband's murder, was ultimately the reliability of the son as a narrative, because he cannot see. The only way he can see is if he can hear. And there's a usage of loud music. Like the way that the husband tries to irritate the wife is to turn up the music really loud. So it kind of paints a picture that the son has no idea the type of relationship that his parents have. And it made everything so much more profound, because I wanted this case to be black and white, but it clearly wasn't.
Yep. Absolutely. I think the son is such an interesting character because he goes on a whole journey through this entire thing.
Yes.
So we can let's bog down on just the son scenes real quick.
Okay.
Because we can just kind of go over those. So first of all, he goes on a walk and then comes back and his father is dead.
Yes.
And he
finds
has
his dad.
Yes, he finds his dad. And so he has a dog that is basically, what do you call him? Like a
guide dog.
I'm forgetting the name. A guide dog. There you go. So he has a guide dog. So the guide dog is like, hey, by the way, your dad's dead on the ground. And he's like, hello? Hello?
Does he not come in contact with the blood first in the snow?
I think he does. I watched this movie over a year ago. I barely remember the details. But yeah, he has to basically discover with his hands, with his other senses, that his father is dead on the ground. And then I think he yells to his mom. I don't really remember. But yeah, so him finding out that and then just being confused and then being thrust into a murder case, was already crazy. You find out that during the case, you find out that his father indirectly caused his blindness, which was pretty crazy.
Yep.
Because I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, Cindy. Yes, negligence, because I think the dad was supposed to pick him up from school or something like that. He didn't pick him up, and he ended up trying to like cross the street for some reason. I don't remember. And then he ended up being hit by a car, I think. Yes. And that's what caused his blindness.
And no. So pretty much,
okay,
you have the general premise correct, but there was somebody there. So the father was supposed to pick up the son because the mother was busy. It got very late. The father still couldn't. So they sent an attendant, like a babysitter, to go pick up, like I think it was their neighbor or something. And they did try to cross the street. But because of the fact that it wasn't during the school hours, and you know, it's like also just as much a fault, like it's honestly more a fault of the car that hit them than anything else. But it's the whole concept of, if you had gone to pick up our son at the proper time, this wouldn't have been an issue. They wouldn't have had to cross the street so late at night. They would have been able to cross the street when it's like the school attendant was out to stop traffic, you know, not taking into consideration that it's mainly the driver's fault because you have the headlights and I'm sure they were crossing at a crosswalk. Why are you hitting a woman and a small child? So.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's why he is blind. And so the mother blames the father for that, like Cindy said. And so that contributes to the case as well. And the son, I'm pretty sure he's in the courtroom for a good portion of the case.
The whole case.
And so he's hearing all of these things that are painting out his mother to be the villain.
Yep.
And his father, the victim. And so that affects him to the point where he starts believing that his mother actually did it. And he gets kind of hostile with his mom one day ordering her to like leave the house because he has a like special attendant for the court case because they need to make sure that the
He's
mother's
a witness.
not influencing the child.
Because he's a major witness.
Yes. And so the son tells the mother to leave and the attendant's like, you have to leave. Goodbye. Yeah. So that is affecting the way that he looks at his mother. And then later on, he starts to have doubts. Is my mother actually a villain? Because now I'm remembering all these different scenarios with my father. He ends up doing an experiment on his dog because he remembers seeing his father passed out and he like threw up pills of some sort. So he thinks that he committed or tried to commit suicide at some point. And so he tries it on his dog and it works. The experiment works on his dog, but the dog's still alive. Don't worry. And so he kind of goes from, oh, my mother's a villain to, oh, maybe my mother didn't. And then my dad actually committed suicide. And then he remembers like this one random conversation he had with his father in the car, which kind of, if you think about it, could be a goodbye to his son, maybe, but also maybe not. It's very ambiguous. And so in the end, he ends up testifying, basically saying like, I think my father committed suicide. I don't think my mom did it, essentially, towards the end. And so it's like you go through this whole roller coaster with him to where he's like, I don't know what to believe. But at the end of the day, I feel like he did the math in his brain and he's like, I could lose 2 parents or I could lose 1.
Yeah. And he's like, let me lose only 1.
Yes. Yep. So he was such an interesting character for me. And so we could go on to, let's do character by character because that's where we're at. Let's talk about the husband. He's not in the film he's in the film for 2 seconds and then we're talking about him.
It's mainly just flashbacks because he's dead. So the only way we get information about the husband is through like they dramatize, they have recordings of things, but a lot of these things are memories that we're able to see, which I appreciate. And I appreciate that they're showing us the things that happened in the past and not just telling us. But yeah, all the information we get from the husband is from memories.
Yep, second sources. And so I think the only thing we saw when he was alive was him. I think he made because the wife was being interviewed by a student or something. And then
a fellow colleague of some sort, I think. I think she was a student, but I don't think she was her student.
Oh, okay, yeah. Some student somewhere or ex-student of some sort. So she was interviewing her, and then I think he came down and like had a dialogue with the wife, and then he went upstairs, turned on super loud music to be like,
no dialogue happened between them. You don't see the husband.
Oh, no dialogue?
You don't see the husband.
Oh, you don't see him. You just hear the music.
Yeah. And she makes commentary about her husband likes to do that to make her upset. But we don't see the husband. Like, I didn't even fully know what the husband looked like until we got that dramatization of the recording. Because you kind of see his like side profile. Yeah.
Golf clap.
I actually wanted to talk about that dramatization, and I wanted to talk about both those characters because I think both Sandra and her husband, because I believe up until
at the end, the one in the court scene.
Yeah, the one in the court scene. Because up until the court scene, I personally felt that Sandra was innocent. Like, one thing I did like about this film is it really made you try to figure out whether or not she actually did do it. And I remember you telling me that you're going to end with the movie not knowing for sure. And I was getting to that scene. I was like, I don't know why Chanel said that because to me, it's very clear that she didn't do it. But then when we get to that scene where it's like, he's being antagonistic to her, but she's feeding into it, and she just gets as nasty, if not worse. And they get into a fight, and you find out that like she hits him. Like they beat on each other, but she sometimes is the stronger of the two, where she does more of the damage, and you find out that she has a temper. And so I really liked that scene because it really showed us who the husband was, because we don't know who he is. He's not here to speak for himself. If he was, there would be no point to this trial. But at the same time, it was giving that, like, obviously Sandra's going to be an unreliable narrator because she wants to not, she doesn't want to go to jail. She's not going to be honest. But it really painted a better photo of what was going on because you can't refute what you say. It's a recording. Right? And it can't be refuted. You said what you said, how you said it. Like, we can hear the tone of your voice. We can't see your actions, but we can assume your actions based off the tone of your voice, and we can hear the progression of a conversation. We can hear him say one thing, but we can hear you matching him and being even worse. And all that stuff. And ultimately, you claim that you're not holding any animosity to him, but then you tell him that you're holding animosity. It's like, you're lying. So what else are you lying about? And I really like that dynamic. Also, I really like how the French do their court. That was fun. It was funny.
That was a good time.
Yeah. Who is this panel of judges? What the heck? Honestly, though, there needs to be multiple judges.
Yes.
Please give me multiple judges.
Honestly.
And give me a jury.
At least 3.
You need both.
At least 3.
You need both.
Yeah. Some of these judges, out of control.
Yes. But I really like that scene with the husband. And in all honesty, I feel like that's the only real scene you can talk about the husband with. Like, there is that little scene, like you said, where the son was like, I think my dad was telling me goodbye. But you don't really get much of his character like you do in that recording, that dramatization of that recording.
Yes. And additionally, just to go further on that one little snippet of audio that they give.
Yeah.
Another thing is, because correct me if I'm wrong, but the husband was the one recording, right?
Yes, secretly. Or secret, not so secret, actually.
Yeah.
Because he claimed to be recording for his book, but they didn't always know when he was doing it.
Yes, exactly. So he was being sneaky.
Yeah.
And so the thing is, even with the evidence of the audio, you still have to be like, okay, he was recording this.
Yeah.
And so he probably said all the things that he knows to say to get, because you know when you know someone, when you really know someone, you know exactly what to say to piss them off and get the reaction that you want out of them. Mm-hmm. And so it also made me look at him and go, you were also doing too much. So is it a situation where, because the question in the movie is, did he kill himself? It could have been an accident because he fell from the
second
the roof
floor,
level,
third floor, the attic.
The attic. That's what it's called. The attic level. He fell from up there, and so they're wondering: did he kill himself? Did he accidentally fall, or did she push him off and murder him?
Yes.
And so I feel like it's so interesting because that audio adds more to like all 3 of the buckets.
Yes.
And it's like, okay.
Yeah.
We have more evidence for all 3 of them at this point. It just depends on how you want to take the audio.
Exactly.
We could do, he was recording secretly. He got a rise out of her because he was trying to set her up because he's going to kill himself and frame her. Mm-hmm. Okay. That adds more to that. Or she obviously flies off the handle and she, can get violent. And so maybe she did kill him.
Yeah.
And he likes to start stuff. So maybe he went too far and she went too far and she murdered him. And so it's like all the possibilities are running through
True.
my head.
For me, I think that was all that I liked when it came to the court case. I can't really remember anything specific, but I want to jump to her lawyer, Vincent.
Yes.
They
had chemistry.
They had a lot of chemistry. They're in the middle of the case, smoking and drinking outside of her house, being all giddy, happy, like she won when she didn't. But the scene that got me was there after she won. They went to go get, I think they went and got Chinese food. Mm-hmm. Like they got like takeout, and they're in the restaurant eating together, and like everybody else leaves, but Vincent's like, I'm gonna drive you home, because ultimately, like Chanel said, Sandra got kicked out of her house because her son said, I don't want you here. But after she won, the son was like, you can come back home. So Vincent's like, I can drive you back. And they share a very intimate moment where they I think they kind of like embrace. Mm-hmm. And I thought they were going to kiss, and they didn't. Ooh. And I that scene, I was just like, I felt that chemistry this entire movie, but it also added to I don't know, because then it started making me think maybe she did actually do it, because Maybe she wanted to no longer be with her husband and she wanted to be with Vincent. But, you know, if she divorces her husband, there will be a custody fight. She doesn't want to lose her son. So what if he did this? It was like, it's a crime of passion, but not the type of passion that you're thinking. And so I left that scene being like, oh, what's going on here?
You see, but then there's always that plausible deniability because she could just be like, my husband's dead and I like this guy.
Yeah,
and we're
of course.
just connecting. The chemistry's there and I'm going to roll with it.
Right, because she could say, like, so we work together so intimately. Like, he had to get to know me so well to defend me.
Yes, they bonded.
Yep.
And so it's like, you never know. And we'll never know, but the way that they did the never knowing was perfect.
Beautiful.
Honestly.
I agreed.
Absolutely.
Agreed. I'm trying to think. Is there anything else that you remember from this movie that you liked? You want to discuss?
You mentioned the French court. I really enjoyed seeing the French court, and I liked the way that they kept giving little tidbits of evidence.
Yeah.
Each time there was a little tidbit, and then you think, okay, that's interesting. Oh, why would they bring up the fact that she wrote a book that he stole? Okay, so maybe that's motive, or maybe that's not.
Oh, and but then, he didn't steal the book. She stole...
I'm saying she stole his book.
Oh, okay. To an extent.
Yeah.
Not, but yes, but no.
In quotations. I'm summarizing it quickly. Mm-hmm. Watch the movie. But yeah, so she wrote the book that he refused to finish, in quotation marks. Mm-hmm. So, you know, it's that. And then I think she also wrote a book with a certain topic that made them think like, oh, maybe that was related to real life and da da da.
It's
and
because
so
she
it's so
said that.
Interesting to see.
She said that herself. That was something they threw back at her. At the very beginning of the film, the person was talking to her about her process, about the fact that all of her characters are based off her life. And the person was just like, so right now you're making me into a character. And she's like, yes, but no. But then she couldn't get into her process because her husband started recording, right? And so that was another thing they try to use against her, was the fact that she explicitly wrote about a woman tired of her husband and planning the husband's murder, like planning to murder her husband.
Yes.
And they were just like, you have claimed openly that you write books about like your life. Like one of your character's sons became blind by an accident. Like you wrote that, and you've written about your relationship with your parents, like, which is very much directly attached. All you do is sometimes change the location or change the ethnicity or change the gender, but it's your life. And that's what they were trying to throw back at her. Yeah.
Yes. And so with that, I feel like that made for like interesting topics to where you're again playing this game of, that could be attack for this, or it could just be nothing.
Yeah.
Or it could be attack for the other side. Like, it's just everything is in between. And so you never really know, and you'll never know. And so I just like the unraveling of a case where they gave us a little bit of information each time. Some of it was like, okay, girl, she had a friend, relax. Mm-hmm. She was talking with this, but relax, like you're doing too much. And then other ones where you're like, oh, right. Okay, maybe girl, maybe that points against you. I don't know what to say there, but yeah, so it was very interesting. I had a good time watching this movie.
Okay. So before we get into themes, just a quick, do you think she did it? Yes or no?
No.
Agreed. Agreed.
If I was on the jury, I would say no, because there's too much, what do they call it? Reasonable doubt?
Yeah.
I know this is France, so they do things differently,
but still,
America, not guilty.
Right. But even with the information, not even using, I mean, like, I personally feel like based off of character, it's possible that she could have done it, but I don't think she did.
I don't think so.
Yeah. So anyway, that was just all. I just was curious what your thoughts were.
Yes.
Do you want to bring up some common themes between Nightbitch and Anatomy of the Fall?
Oh, what are the common themes? So I would say the first common theme is that these are about women whose lives have changed and they're like trying to get back to normalcy.
Right.
I feel like that's the trend in both of these.
Yes. I would say they're both artists. That's another
Yes.
common theme. And they're both mothers who are taking care of their sons.
Yep. And their sons, you know, sometimes they're their biggest op.
Yes.
And sometimes the husband's the biggest op too.
Honestly. Interesting. It's crazy how men in both films find ways to disrupt these women's lives. Isn't that crazy?
Oh, you know, I never would have thought that.
Right.
Ever.
Me either. Never would have thunk it. That's hilarious. Are there any other themes? Unfortunately, Sandra doesn't have a community of women banding behind her. It's actually very interesting how much of the public of France was so intrigued by this case, like it was televised.
Yes.
And they had live translators translating everything so people could understand. But I think that's outside of what we've already said. I don't think there are any other similarities between Anatomy of the Fall and Nightbitch. I mean, you could say a dog. Yeah. There's a dog in both movies.
Oh yeah, there's two dogs.
So
dog.
But yeah, okay. Do you want to go into rankings?
Yes, let's rank them. Oh
let's
my
rank.
God.
Okay, so let's start with Nightbitch.
Recap.
Okay, yes, please recap.
Let's recap the ranking and then we'll stick them in. So number 1 is Femme. Oh my God.
Femme is so good.
Number 2 is Challengers.
Right.
Number 3 is Past Lives. And then number 4 is Babygirl.
Correct.
So shall we start with Nightbitch?
Yep. You know where I'm putting it.
Where would you put it, Cindy?
It's number 5.
I agree with that.
Yeah, it was not good.
Yeah, I think Babygirl is better than Nightbitch.
Yes.
By a good amount.
Agreed. 100%.
So, yes. And then we have Anatomy of the Fall. Very interesting.
So I know where it should go, but I'm kind of torn. So here's the thing. It's either going above or below Past Lives. And I'm leaning more towards above. But I feel like they're pretty similar as in terms of films, you know, and like quality, obviously not content, but like, they both were really good films, right? And so if it was a possibility, I would say that they deserve a tie for the third place, but I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Well, guess what, Cindy? I'm a tiebreaker. I put Anatomy of the Fall above.
I knew you would.
Past Lives.
I knew you would.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because this had me engaged from beginning to the end of the movie. I was engaged the entire time.
Yeah.
Past Lives, during the middle, it kind of meandered for me. And so I feel like Anatomy of a Fall is a better movie, technically, just with pacing and everything. So
I was the opposite.
I would go Anatomy of the Fall.
Past Lives had me. I told you, I really enjoyed that film. Anatomy of the Fall I found to be very boring at the beginning. It didn't get interesting to me until we had the recording with the husband. And that's close to like halfway into the movie. I felt like the movie was too long. I didn't think that the beginning portion was necessary. And what I enjoyed was when we hit the trial. Like, I felt like there was too much time spent in the recreation of like the seeing if the son heard things or not. I thought it was,
I loved all of that because I feel like in crime dramas, you never really see the like pre-trial detective work, like just the run of the mill, like what the regular policeman and the forensic scientist. I feel like you don't see that often from beginning to end for a case. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah,
so
and that's fair.
I thought that was interesting, and that's why I was engaged. I was like, okay, set it up, and then the son's gonna see if he can hear, and he can't hear it. Yeah. What's going on?
Yes.
So that's why I was engaged. But for Past Lives, the middle, she lost me.
See, and I didn't need it. I understand that you enjoyed it, but I personally didn't need all that extra. And I found the movie to be too long. For Past Lives, I watched it from beginning to end. Anatomy of the Fall, I kept pausing, and it took me 2 days to finish. I couldn't finish it in one sitting. And that's the reason why I go back and forth. But again, like the parts in which it was dynamic, the reason why I would be okay to put it above Past Lives is the parts in which it was dynamic. It did dynamic very, very well, but I just felt like there was too much movie and it didn't need to be that long. But Past Lives got me from beginning to end, and I was like, chef's kiss.
Yeah. So we definitely feel opposite because, like I said, I think we were mentioning this in the last episode or the first episode that Past Lives would have been better as a short film.
Yep.
For me. And so Anatomy of a Fall, I like the length, I like the runtime, all of that. So, but yeah, but nonetheless, we still agree
to an extent.
Rankings.
I'm conceding. I'm just like, it is what it is. Like, I don't.
Yeah,
this is not.
You put them on the same level. So I'm bumping one up.
Yeah. And in all honesty, this is not a hill to die on. Like, I don't think, in all honesty, a movie, if we felt differently about Challengers and Femme, I would have fought you on that. These are not movies worth fighting for, you know?
Yep.
So now our ranking is Femme number 1, Challengers number 2, Anatomy of the Fall number 3, Past Lives number 4, Babygirl number 5, and Nightbitch number 6.
Wow.
I know.
We'll see what the rest of the list has in store.
Woo!
Wow.
I'm going to tell you this right now. Nightbitch is going to continue to descend. I already know.
You see, it is, but I have faith that there might be something worse than Nightbitch.
Hey, I'm not saying
we still have time.
I'm not saying there might not be, but I'm telling you, Nightbitch will be tied. It's going to be very low. Like, it's definitely going to be in the lower half.
Bottom three. Bottom three.
Yes. Yes.
It's going to be bottom 3.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Our anti-challengers.
Truly. But okay, this was a good episode, Miss Chanel.
We haven't had to fight yet.
Not yet. Not yet. Thankfully. Not yet. I don't think we are.
It might be coming up.
I feel like we're pretty aligned, to be honest. Oh, Winston.
It's true.
He just stuck his booty into the camera.
He was trying to give people a show.
You might need to block that out.
Editing Chanel. Don't let him be a whore.
No, please. Editing Chanel. If you edit anything, please. You need to take that out.
Oh God. Not full back.
Ooh,
full
goodness.
back.
Anyway, let's wrap it up before he does it again. Have a good rest of your day, Chanel.
You too, Cindy, and good luck to your cat's booty hole.
Right. Alrighty. Goodbye.
Bye. Is someone knocking on my door? Hello? Open the door. Open the door. I'm filming a podcast right now. Goodbye.
Bye.
You want to say hi to the podcast?
No, thank you.
Okay, bye.